This video is about lowest common multiples, which are usually abbreviated to just LCM. As you'll read in the notes, a simple way to find an LCM is just to write out the multiples of the numbers that we're interested in. Here you see an example of 8 and 9, and I'll just write out the multiples of the two numbers until I get to the same number in both columns. And here I know that that's far enough to go. Notice now I've got 72 in both columns. That's the first common number in both columns, so that's the lowest common multiple of 8 and 9. This system will work, well, it'll work for all lowest common multiples, but you can be here an awfully long time if the lowest common multiple is a high number. For example, if I just take 169 and 14, to get to the lowest common multiple I'll have to write out 14 multiples of 169. To get to that same common multiple I'll have to write out 169 multiples of 14, which is going to take some time before I get to the answer, which is 2366. So even though this system works, it becomes pretty unwieldy with big numbers. Luckily, there's another system using primes, which works very nicely and is much easier to use. Let's start with a simple example. So we'll have, let's say 6 and 15. Let's split them up into the primes. That's 2, that's 3, that's 3, and that's 5. So right at I've got a 2, I've got a couple of 3s, I've got a 5. The highest power of 2 I have up here is 2 to the power 1, or just 2. The highest power of 3 I've got is 3, or just 3 to the power 1. The highest power of 5 I have is 5 to the power 1. So the answer is 2 times 3 times 5, which equals 45. That's the lowest common multiple of 6 and 15. So let's try slightly different numbers. Let's go with 18 and 60. 18 breaks down into, I'll do this in some little steps so you can see where things come from, 9 and 2. 9 breaks down into 3 squared. 60 breaks down into 5 and 12, and the 12 itself breaks down into 3 and 2 squared. So what primes have I got here? I've got some 2's, I've got some 3's, and I've got a 5. The highest power of 2 is this 2 squared over here. The highest power of 3 is this 3 squared in here. The highest power of 5 is just the simple 5 to the 1. So the lowest common multiple of 18 and 60 is 2 squared times 3 squared times 5 is 180. So you can see this system works quite nicely. Let's do one with 3 numbers. Let's go for, let's say 8, 20 and 62. Let's find the lowest common multiple of these. So the 8 breaks down into, in fact that's 2 cubed. The 20 I can break down into 10 and 2. The 10 breaks down into 5 times 2. And I've got the original 2 there, so that makes it 5 times 2 squared. And the 62 is 31 and 2. And 31 is a prime number. So doing the same again here, I've got highest power of 2 is 2 cubed, and the highest, there's no 3's, I've got a 5, and I've got a 31. So the answer is 2 cubed times 5 times 31, and that comes out at 1240. And as you can see, we'd have written out an awful lot of numbers in columns if we'd used the first method. Notice how I spotted that 31 is a prime number. It's handy to know, should we say the first 10 prime numbers, 31 is actually the 11th prime number. Most of the time you'll just be dealing with the smaller prime numbers, which are 2, 3, 5, 7, let's say 11 and 13. If you can spot those straight off, it'll save you a bit of time. So, one last question is, now we know how to find the lowest common multiple, why? Why do we need to know a lowest common multiple? The best example is fractions. Let's say I want to do a simple addition of fractions, a half plus a third plus a 16th. As you know from fractions, I've got to get everything onto a common denominator. So I'm going to end up with something over a common denominator and the two pluses at the top. So the lowest common multiple of 2, 3 and 6. 2 is obviously just 2, 3 is just 3, 16 is 2 to the power 4. So the LCM of all these numbers is 2 to the 4 times 3. Highest power of 2 is 2 to the 4th, highest power of 3 is just 3. And that comes out at 48. So my denominator needs to be 48. And then I can just look here. 2 multiplied by 24 is 48, so multiply the 1 by 24 as well. 3 multiplied by 16 is 48. 16 multiplied by 3 is 48. And that gives me a fraction of 43 over 48. And basically that's all there is to lowest common multiples.